The New York Jets are now on the board.
Okay, Jet fans, Darrell Revis.
Being in New York has been one of the greatest blessings.
Zach's Fifth Avenue ran that one right now.
The New York Jets select.
Welcome to another episode of NFL Draft Preview. Ethan Greenberg, Dane Brugler, both back from Indianapolis, both still full of steak. But let's start with this. Let's start with the on-field workouts, right? Saturday, the defensive line took the field at Lucas Oil Stadium. They seemed to jump out of the building. What was your take on Saturday's workouts?
Ethan, I've been coming to the Combine for over 10 years now. And that night, Saturday night, sitting in Lucas Oil Stadium, watching the defensive tackles, the edge rushers, the linebackers, this is the most fun I've ever had at the Combine. Sometimes drills, they could drag at times where it's just, all right, how many more groups we have to go through here? But that wasn't the case with this group. It was a lot of fun watching these guys work out. It started with a bang with Jordan Davis, the nose tackle out of Georgia, 341 pounds, going out there and running a 4.78, which is just a remarkable time for a guy that size.
You have Travon Walker going number 3 overall to the Houston Texans. How much of that is predicated on what he did in Indianapolis?
Oh, quite a bit. And to me, it really wasn't that big of a surprise. Travon Walker was my number 6 overall player coming into the Combine. So, a big reason for that is because of the freaky traits that he shows on the tape. So, just because he showed out at the Combine, you don't want to all of a sudden count it twice because that's what I expected. And he met all those expectations, probably exceeded them a little bit. 6'5", 272 pounds, ran a 4.59, which is outstanding. 35.5 in the vert, 10.3 broad, 6.89 in the 3-cone. That's a mind-blowing number. At 272 pounds, to post a better 3-cone than most of the linebackers, a lot of wide receivers. So a guy that moves like that is it's special.
So needless to say, Travon Walker, a viable Jets at number 4 as we sit here in early March with over a month left in the pre-draft process, right?
Yeah, no question. I think that he was already in that mix, in my opinion, because I've been saying this. My line with Travon Walker the entire draft process has been this. In 3 years, if you tell me that Travon Walker is the best defensive player from this class, that would not be a surprise because he has that ability. It's just, is it more of a projection with him compared to some of these other players? Yeah, because we haven't seen him necessarily do it because of the way he was used.
Sauce Gardner, I feel like a lot of the buzz is he had a really good workout and coming out of Indianapolis, but cornerback is one of those positions that's really dependent on a stopwatch. Then you're looking at another guy like Tarik Woolley, who was the fastest player at the Senior Bowl, right, in terms of GPS data, and then he had a blazing fast 40 at Lucas Oil. So I'm not asking you to compare the two players, but when you look at two guys who are tall, long, and rangy, how do you go about evaluating their separate workouts, knowing that one of them is clearly a lot faster than the other?
Well, and to be fair, the quote-unquote official time for Sauce Gardner was 4.41. So, a lot different than the unofficial times that popped up on NFL Network. So, for Sauce Gardner to go out there with his 33.5-inch arms, his tall stature, to go out there and run a 4.41, pretty impressive. And I think that's, it's going to be hard to see Sauce Gardner fall out of the top 10 picks because of that. And I think with Tarik Woolley, it's hard for guys when you are billed as this track star, as this speed demon. It could be tough at times for you to go out there and consistently live up to that. But you know what? You mentioned the Senior Bowl, 22.45 miles per hour. That's what they clocked him at. The fastest ever in the 5 years that they've been tracking that at the Senior Bowl. Goes to the Combine and rips off a 4.26 40-yard dash. So for Tarik Woolley, still raw, still growing in a lot of areas of the position. But when you have a guy that's over 200 pounds, 6'3", has length, and has that type of speed, you're going to bet on that. That's the guy that's going to go somewhere on day 2, second or third round.
Sauce Gardner's unofficial time a lot slower than his official time, but for a guy like Kyle Hamilton, what do you make of his 40-yard dash, and how much does that impact, let's say, the rest of his workout and potentially how teams view him now in this next month and a half?
Yeah, and I think we have to remember he's 6'4", 220. So this is a big guy. And so he ran a 4.59. I admit I thought he'd run faster than that. But still, 4.59 is not a bad time for a guy that size. And I don't have the numbers yet, but I am eager to find out what his flying 20 was. That 20 to 40, that second half of his 40-yard dash. Because for a guy that size, it could be a little tough getting out of your stance, getting started, unwinding those long legs to be a long strider. So I think that he didn't have a great start in those 40-yard dashes, but I would bet his flying 20, the final half of that 40-yard dash, I'm going to put that and compare that to some of these other safeties, and I'll bet it's one of the fastest among the safety group.
Who are some of those guys that you think on offense really help themselves, whether that's speed, workout, or whatever the case may be?
Well, looking at the receivers, Calvin Austin, coming in, he's not a big guy. We know that. That's you have to be comfortable with a guy that's 5'7", never really going to be bigger than say 180. That's his makeup. That's who he is. But if, not every offense is going to have a role like that for someone that size, but there's a role for somebody with his speed. Another guy who fits that kind of that category is Christian Watson out of North Dakota State, who we saw at the Senior Bowl. I still think the route running is a little more raw than people want to admit, but 6'4", almost 210 pounds, 32.5-inch arms. He went out there, ran a 4.36, 38.5-inch vert. I think he had the best broad jump, 11.2, 11.4, something like that. So Christian Watson helped himself. He's also in that day 2 mix.
And that's how we put a wrap on the NFL Combine review. Dane, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Ethan.